Good afternoon, and welcome to the latest edition of Live Music and Me, a music podcast where we talk to some of our friends and musical contacts around their gig memories. Today's guest is the singer, songwriter, musician from Bluebells, McCluskey Brothers, and others, Ken McCluskey. Good afternoon, Ken.
Good afternoon, Brian.
How are we doing,
Nice
mate?
to see you. All good, yep.
Good stuff. Thanks very much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
No bother.
So, I've got a few questions for you, so I hope we can get the old grey matter going here. So,
Yep.
we'll crack on. So, first question I've got for you is the first gig that you went to.
First kind of proper gig I went to was at the Apollo, Glasgow Apollo, and it was December 1977, and it was the Damned and the Dead Boys. Now we got free tickets for that because we had tickets to see the Clash the next night at the
Right.
Apollo.
Wow.
And we were going up to Buchanan Street bus station past the Apollo, and we'd been out buying records or whatever, and they were giving tickets away because there was kind of like too many punk gigs on one week. I think there was a few other things happening, so nobody went to see the Damned basically, and they were giving out free tickets, so we just went, well, we'll go to this as well. So the Clash was the next night. Went to see the Damned that night. We just stayed in town actually, instead of going home. Went to see the Damned. Damned were not very good because I think they were pissed off that nobody bought any tickets for them. But the Dead Boys were incredible. The Dead Boys were amazing.
I don't remember the Dead Boys.
Dead Boys were brilliant. Steve Bators, he went on to be a Lord of the New Church and all that.
Right. Okay.
But he was a brilliant frontman. He was inside the bass drum and all that. They blew the Damned off the stage.
Yeah.
Although I was a damn fan at the time, but the
Yeah.
Dead Boys were just amazing. And I always loved support bands after that. I was like, wow, this is, really amazing.
Yeah.
So Dead Boys, superb. Years later, we're in the Bluebells support Lords of the News in Spain, and we did a tour of castles. It's quite an odd billing, Lords of the New Church sort of goth band in the Bluebells, but we got on really, really well. And it was quite funny because Bobby Bluebell looks like Steve Bators. So what they used to do was dress up as each other. Bobby would follow the crucifixes and the leather gear and all that and the mad hair.
Yeah.
And he would dress up as Bobby Bluebell, as wee stripy tweed t-shirt on. And they'd do interviews in Spanish radio. He would do it as Bobby Bluebell and he would do it as Steve Bators. It was hilarious, man. Really hilarious. Yeah. So anyway, that was the start of a kind of relationship. I got to know him really well. But years later.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Apollo's a big venue for, if the Damned said they were struggling to sell tickets, it's not the easiest venue to fill anyway.
No, I think it was just before Christmas. I think it was the 10th and the 11th.
Right.
So the 11th was the Clash, the 10th was the Damned and the Dead Boys. So probably everybody's, saving up for Christmas. And there was an awful lot of gigs on that week. So, and I think it was only so many punk rockers that were, there was any money or whatever that were going to turn up. So, yeah, it was amazing. So I was in a wee band at the time called Rodeo with my pals, and from Bothwell, Dixie Deans and Donald Kerr, my brother David. So we all went together. So it was amazing. It was our first big gig.
Brilliant, fantastic. Okay, and fast forward a bit. So the last gig that you went to?
Last gig I go recently. I've just retired from being a lecturer at a college, at Glasgow Kelvin College, formerly Stoke College, where I run Electric Honey Records. Or ran Electric Honey Records with the students. So part of my job was to go and see a lot of bands. So I went to see the same night, Glad Cafe, a girl called Alice Faye, who's absolutely brilliant.
Right.
Singer-songwriter. Really, really great. She's kind of like Patsy Cline or Connie Francis or one of these, but in a sort of modern setting.
Yep.
She's really great. Great songwriter. And Soapbox are a wee mad punk band from one of the guys in my class, a guy called Aidan Moskill. And that was at the Glad Cafe, so 2 gigs to one night. That was the last time I was out for a big gig night.
Good stuff again. Good venue as well, Glad Cafe.
Aye. Both are good. I like the Hugging Pint as well. Hugging Pint's cracking.
Aye. That's like our cavern, isn't it?
It is. It's really good. I think it's a good sound in there as well.
It has. Cool. Okay, and the gig that most surprised you, good or bad?
Surprised me again. This was through college. It was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. It was in the Great Escape, which is a conference, music conference thing in Brighton. And we used to take a few students down there and all that. And some of the students would get work there. It was a good experience. And they have to showcase all sorts of bands and different labels of stalls and all that. And someone said to me, oh, there's this really good band from Edinburgh called the Young Fathers. And I went, oh, that sounds interesting. I had no idea where. Away, 2:00 in the afternoon, first gig of the day, and it was just the rhythm and the sound was amazing, and there wasn't that many people there. It was a kind of big hall, but it was phenomenal, and I've followed them since then. So that was the most surprising thing. I love being surprised by things because I didn't know who the Young Fathers were. I had no
No,
idea what music was
no.
like, but they've since gone on to do really well.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah,
have. They
fan of
have, and
theirs.
they played not that long ago in Glasgow, and again
That's right.
the feedback was fantastic. I didn't manage to get to that, which
And they're great live. They're great. They're really,
yeah,
it's really visual. It's quite theatrical.
yeah, absolutely.
Actually, the shapes they pull and all that, the dances and the movement.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Give you some ideas.
Absolutely. Pull a few shapes. I learned a few new shapes.
They don't put the tambourine on their head, do they? Or
No, they don't. No, they've not learned that one yet. I need to pass that one. I need to pass that one.
okay, the first gig you went to with a partner.
First gig, oh, the first girlfriend I had was at school. Came to our school and she was from New Zealand. They were doing a sort of swap sort of thing. Family swap. They were doctors. Her dad was a doctor. So she moved to Bothwell. I went to school in Hamilton, Holy Cross. So she was in my class, and I ended up going out with her a couple of times, quite a few times actually. And she liked the Police.
Mm-hmm.
Now I thought the Police were a wee bit. I'm kind of punk rock man. I'm like that. Police. That's a brass neck man. I'm going to see the Police. But I went hand in hand, and it was excellent. The Cramps with the sport band. Cramps for the sport band, and I think he fell off the stage. I think or jumped off the stage, broke his ankle, or injured himself really badly because he's quite again theatrical and throwing himself a bit. But the Apollo stage is massive; it's really high, and you're like, no,
Don't do it.
Jump, or don't fall off that, But I don't know, but it was good. They were really brilliant. I mean, I remember just watching the drummer, Copeland, amazing man. All I did was just watch the drummer all night because he was so brilliant to watch.
Yeah.
But that was my first sensible girlfriend, I suppose, partner night out. It was very enjoyable. I enjoyed it.
What kind of year would that be, do you think, Ken?
That would be 78.
Okay. Cool.
78. So I was still at school. I would be 16.
Perfect. Okay. A gig that you had a ticket to but missed.
A gig that I had a ticket to the rest. Oh, this is again the Apollo. Sorry, a lot of these are the Apollo, but I'll move on from the Apollo.
It's okay.
Right?
Apollo's great.
I know, but it just so happened it was next to the bus station that we, or Kellerman Street as it used to be.
Kellerman Street, yeah.
Yeah. So we were in, it was winter time, and it was 1978, maybe early 79. And it was Elvis Costello was playing at the Apollo. Mm-hmm. And we were in Mr. Chip's, the chip shop next door.
Yeah.
Right. And it was mobbed. There was loads. I think people were in for a heater. I don't know why there were so many people in the chip shop, but people were just hanging about the chip shop. And something happened. The deal happened up front. All I could hear was like swearing some bad language, right? And the chip shop guy, quite a big guy, he got the fryer. You know the thing you do with the big thing, and he hit a guy over the head with it, right? He scalped a guy, right? It was really, and the guy dead. He's a punk rocker guy that fell. Yeah. And then all of a sudden there was chaos, right? So people were trying to go over the counter. We were like, we didn't know what happened. We were like, what? And we're just wee boys as well. So the cops closed the door of the chip shop and arrested every single person in the chip shop, wow, apart from me and a guy called Stephen Backus, because they couldn't get us in the van. So we were all like this, Yeah. We hadn't done anything, you know what I mean? So there was a good cop there, right? And he was from Uddingston, which is a village kind of close to us. And he knew this guy, Stephen Backus, who I was with from school. And he says, guys, I saw exactly what happened. I know that you didn't do anything. So the cops just went mental, went tonto and just grabbed everybody. So our pals were all in the back of the van. They took them to Stewart Street Police Station. So we followed them up and tried to get them out. And then when we knew we couldn't get them out, they were all in for the night, basically. We had to phone their parents, so there was like 4 of our pals were in the night. And we hadn't done anything. So we had to phone their parents, and the parents came in, they were all up to high door, and we couldn't get them out. But they got out the next day. There was a court case, and the good cop came to the court case and said, these other cops, the bad cops, are talking a lot of nonsense.
Right.
So they just threw the court case out and everything got away and went away. But that was we were waiting to get to the gig, and that's what happened. Mr. Chips. So always remember it. Never even got a fish supper.
So you had your ticket physically, you just didn't get in.
I had a ticket, just
Right?
never got in. Well, we couldn't because we had to try and get them out. So
Yeah.
it would be a bit rotten of us to go to the gig then. To go to the gig, your pals in the neck.
I
So
don't know.
we're more worried about their mums and dads, you know, like blah, blah, blah.
I've got a few friends who might have just left me, Ken, to be honest, you know, and went to the gig. Okay, a bucket gig in the past that you wished you'd got to.
A gig that I got, well, wish I'd gone to or got in basically was the Ramones at the QM. I could hear it, we just couldn't get in. We were too young. We were with, I think I was about 16, and the other boys were about 15, 14. I think one person get in, the rest of us could, because you need the student to sign you in to the QM at the time. And I think we were just too young, or, you know, we weren't getting in basically.
Yeah.
And I think because we've been hanging about all afternoon, the bouncers were like, they're not getting in.
Yeah.
So we tried loads of things, sneaking in and getting in through windows and all that kind of, but we never get in. So that was, I never saw the Ramones then after that.
I've
always liked them, always liked the Ramones, and I never saw them, but that's one that I wish I'd got in.
And was that in their kind of pomp? Was that at the beginning of the first album and that time?
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye, it would be probably the second album, aye. But
the
I mean, the universities and all that, Glasgow was brilliant for gigs. So Strathclyde, you'd have Blondie and all that, Talking Heads, you know, television, you would have, you know, the QM, you'd have all sorts of bands, you know, like the Ramones, brilliant. I mean, so unis and colleges were really amazing. Yeah. And it's a shame now that they don't really have that now. It's all sort of disco with 50 pence vodka and all that shit, you know, like, because it's expensive to put on bands. It's not expensive to put on a DJ and charge 50 pence for vodka, you know what I mean? It's they should bring that back, because it's well, it'd be great if they could bring that culture back.
Maybe that's something you could do with your spare time now.
Well, that's it. Because a lot of people like Mark Mackey at Regular Music and all that, they all started off as being, of course, you know, like they all started off as being the promoters, the college promoters, college reps or whatever. And loads of people went from uni or college, you know, the social sort of side into professional music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Learn their trade. So it's a good stepping stone. It's a good alternative way of getting into music.
You're right, mate. Fingers crossed that maybe some of that can come back again. You mentioned support acts earlier. So the best support act that you've ever seen?
Best support act. It's just because this one really sticks out in my head. Myself and Russell was in the Bluebells. So there was a gig, and it was a nightclub in Edinburgh, which was a great venue. It's above the Palladium. Palladium? What is it called? Palladium. So we were playing in there. We played there quite a lot. And at that time, it was Orange Juice for the main band. Aztec Camera were in the middle. Then it was the Bluebells. So I kind of knew Aztec Camera a wee bit. They had been in a band called Neutral Blue. Because where I'm from, like Bothwell and East Kilbride, as the crow flies, are quite near each other. Yep. As the road goes, it's about 7 miles or something.
Yep.
Like that. But it's about a mile as the crow flies. So you get to know what's into music and all that. And I had a demo of Neutral Blue. And they were kind of like Joy Division, something like that, like a Joy Division. Roddy was in it, Campbell was in it, Alan Welsh. I think Campbell would still to join, actually. So it was basically Aztec Camera, Neutral Blue, they were called. So I was expecting a Joy Division sort of band. And then this young guy, so he's the same age as my brother, David, who was in the Bluebells. They were about maybe 15, so I would be 17. And he just got up with this big jumbo guitar and he started playing, and we were like, for fuck's sake. And Russell, my pal, who was from Johnson, he was in the Bluebells, and he says, we might as well just go up the road. Because he was that good. He was a really proficient guitar player at that time. Yeah. And at that time, we were still garage guys, you know, pinko, punko, pinko, ding, dinky, dinky. And we knew a few chords and all that. We weren't very proficient. We were just like, wow, look at that guy. He knew his chops. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. I must have been playing the guitar for quite a few years at that point. I think he was playing since he was a wee guy. And obviously practicing a lot, which we probably did. So he was excellent, but and that sort of set a standard, I think. I mean, I don't think we tried to copy them or do whatever, but it was just like, wow, man, that guy's really, really good. And then his band joined them, and they were all excellent.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest, apart from the Dead Boys. That's the apart from Dead Boys, that's the one that was probably more influential in
Yeah.
that. It was like, well, that's the standard. That's shit hot, you know.
Yeah, and they were local, so you know you had that reference point.
We were local as well. We knew them a bit, so it was like, wow, man, that's cool. And
Yeah.
honest, just thought they were pretty good to us, those postcard guys, because we did quite a lot of gigs with them,
Yeah.
up down in London and all over the place.
Okay.
So we were never short of support.
Okay, perfect. A gig that made you miss the last bus or train home?
Yes, I remember this one because it was freezing, man. It was Generation X, and they just had a new album out, Valley of the Dolls, and it was at Air Pavilion.
Right.
Now, Air Pavilion was falling apart. It was really falling apart at that point, but it was great. I mean, it was rough and ready, and there was bits falling off the walls and all that. And windows were all boarded up and all that, so it looked like a derelict sort of building. But when the when the lights go out, and then they were absolutely brilliant. Generation X were a great live band.
Mm-hmm.
Valley of the Dolls was the album. I think King Rocker, there was a track from that. It was all pink vinyl and all that, you know. It was all everything kind of looked good. They were all very stylized, Generation X, you know. So I was still at school. We dogged school, and we went to. We thought, I don't know how we thought we were going to go home from here. How we thought we were going to go home from Ayr, you know, because Ayr, Glasgow, but it's not really going to happen. But anyway, we went and we gung-hoed it, and I remember sleeping in a car park behind a Tesco or something like that, or an Asda or something. It was absolutely freezing, and we were all just huddled together like that. It was absolutely Baltic. And we got the first train. I think it was about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But that was Baltic. But it was worth it at the time. I think we all ended up with the flu, but it was good.
He's Billy Idol's still going now, isn't he? He's
still going. I think he moved to LA quite early on, isn't he? He's a big sort of celebrity over there, you know.
Yeah, he's playing a
As
bit.
better face.
Playing with Paul Cook and stuff now, isn't he? They've got a band.
I think so. And it's the other one, not the other Sex Pistols, you know, over there as well.
Steve Jones. Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
And he's got a radio show and all that.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's all funny how they're all kind of the LA set now, isn't it? Like,
no, it's not quite Air, is it? To be fair.
Nah.
Okay. Okay. A bucket gig that you're still waiting to go to.
Right. This one happened recently, and I was gutted because I've been waiting for ages to see them, and I've ticked off loads. There's been loads that that I've always. I want to go see Bob Dylan, for example. I saw Bob Dylan earlier in the year. Regular Music put them on at the Armadillo. Yeah, excellent, really brilliant. Devo. So I really want to go and see Devo, and of course the poster I see is farewell tour.
Yeah.
And I was working on something else just before, and it was only a few weeks ago. Yeah. I'm like, I'm going to go to that, and then I saw the date, and I'm like, I'm going to go to that. It's the story of my life, you're like, no. So I love Devo. I just love all the imagery and all that, and I've read quite a bit about them. I think they're a really, really interesting group, and it's been going for years. Surprisingly, they've been going like the early 70s and all that, even the early 60s when they were art school and all that. So quite a very interesting band. I like all the visuals, and I missed them again. And it's farewell, so I never saw Devo, and I never will probably. Indeed. But there is a band called We Are Not Devo. Right. Who apparently are brilliant. So I might just go and see We Are Not Devo.
Do you think, is it Devo's farewell tour, or do you think it's a farewell tour?
Oh, you might get a Mark Horsburgh as Devo or something like that. I don't know, but they seem to be quite a good unit, don't they? But they'll be a good age band. They'll be in their 70s.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
they'll be in their 70s, so it probably will be their farewell tour.
Yeah, they might do a wee Sinatra.
Okay, I'll just watch them on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so a gig that you travelled the furthest to get to?
Travelled the furthest, yes. I've written down the year because I think I didn't write the year down, but it was probably about 91.
Okay.
And that would be my brother and I, David, after the Bluebells McCluskey Brothers. So we did 4 albums, the McCluskey Brothers, and we did a lot of playing. It was more sort of acoustic, folky kind of stuff, I suppose. Yeah. With a pop sensibility. And
very good too.
We were kind of fed up looking at each other. Basically, if you're living in each other's pockets all the time, we were super glued since we were like 2 and 4. I mean, my mum used to dress us the same and all that, twin pushchair and all that. You're like, So we'd be working all the way up, always together, and we made some money at one point, and we thought, we need a break, man. I'm going to just go camping somewhere. And David, the same idea. So we went to Ireland, but I went north. So we went to Larne, and I went north and down the west coast, and Dave went east and right down the south, Cork and Kerry and all that. And then we met in a place called Dingle, which is not Dingle, what was it called? Well, it was in Clare, Liston Varna, a place called Dublin, which is a real big traditional music place. We'd been there with our parents before, so we kind of knew where it was. So we just hitched it for 2 weeks. He went that way, I went that way. And then at the end of it, we crossed right across to Dublin. And this was the finale. It was a big gig. It was U2. It was Simple Minds. It was the Eurythmics, reggae band, Steel Pulse. Big country. So it was a good bill. And we were like, wow, well, let's make that the kind of end of our journey sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was at Phoenix Park, big race course, the park. I went there and it was great. And it was kind of like, you know how U2 and Simple Minds were always sort of, oh, and here come the Simple Minds, and oh, U2 are catching up, and oh, U2 have caught up a wee bit, and oh, give them some advice. It was the kind of, you know, they were kind of competing. I mean, I think they were kind of friendly competition. Yeah. But U2 just won it.
Yeah.
And then they went on to be completely massive and nice, a great band, but you know, they kind of stayed the same, I suppose, or whatever. But U2 kind of, it was just when U2 just took over, because Simple Minds were always in front of, you know, Simple Minds were always more inventive or whatever, and a wee bit older than U2, so they were always the top dogs. But then just at that gig, it was just like,
yeah,
Bono blew the. I mean, I'm not a huge U2 fan or anything like that, but they were excellent. They were absolutely excellent, and it was a great festival. So that was the end of that wee tour. So that's the furthest. So all the way around Ireland, and then went to that gig. So that's the furthest I've travelled for a gig.
Did you come back together?
We came back together, yeah. Oh no, we weren't. It's not that we fell out or anything. We just fell out looking at each other. You know what I mean? Imagine you work with your brother all your life, you know. So no, it was a good break, and we had great stories. I mean, he's a cow at his tent and all that. It was magic. You know, who's your tent? A cow at it. What? So we had good adventures. You know.
Brilliant. Okay, there's probably another podcast on that one, kid. So a band or artist that you've saw the most?
Probably, I was thinking about this, and it's probably Edward Collins' Orange Juice, just because I've always been kind of interested in their music. As we said, we started off kind of supporting them. I actually live in the street where Postcard Records used to be. We used to hang about there. 185 West Princess Street was their thing. So I just live around the corner from.
Okay.
So that was a good place, but as a wee kid, because they were all quite inventive and quite, you know, creative. And we went on tour with Orange Juice, did a couple of gigs, did London, did Edinburgh, Glasgow. And then after that, I saw Orange Juice a few times, and then a lot of Edwin's solo stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the band that I've seen the most in different stages.
Yeah,
you know, in different places as well. It's quite an interesting journey, how they go from major record label to independent record label to having their own record label, and you know, so very interesting. I think he's a great songwriter as well, Edwin.
Yeah, and
as was James Kirk and the other guy.
Yeah. And then Edwin obviously had his health challenges, and
and he's done remarkable to come back from that, and just seeing him perform. He's a great singer. His voice is dropped an octave or whatever, and whatever it is, his singing is great. It's really clear, and he's really. I think he's had to. Grace has helped him. His wife has helped him a hell of a lot getting back, and his diction and all that's really good when he's singing. You know, it's really disciplined. You can see he's working hard on it, but his voice sounds great.
And he's not lost his sense of humour either, has he?
No, he's funny. He always was funny.
He's very funny. Okay, so the best gig that you've done as a performer, and why?
Okay, this gig, there's a festival every year in Barcelona. For some reason, in Spain, so bands get sort of famous in different territories, or you get a fan base or a following in different territories. For some reason, Spain was a brilliant territory for us, and I've thought about it, and I think it's because we were around the early 80s. Pop music was banned in Spain under Franco.
Okay.
Right, so there's no Beatles, no Rolling Stones. They missed the 60s, they missed the early 70s, didn't have any. So by the time the late 70s, early 80s came along, all these kids were sort of deprived of music. So they'd go mental. We were like, what? Why are these guys all going mental? And we had a great following there. And then a great promoter. And the promoter, we played quite a lot in Barcelona, Madrid, and all over the country. In the Basque Country, San Sebastian, and all that. And then there's a big festival there in Mount Montjuïc. I think it's Montjuïc, but it's the mountain that looks over Barcelona. It's probably Montihi or whatever, but it looks like Montjuïc, right, with an X in it. So the Olympic Stadium is now.
Yeah.
But just before that, it's flat at the top. And we played our festival, which is the big sort of local government festival. And it was 300,000 people on this big flat bit. And it was the first time I'd seen a PA with a delay. So it's just like just imagine a big avenue like this.
Yeah.
So there's a PA, and then the guy was explaining, well, that this is a second behind that one because people were down here, and this is a second and a half behind this one. And it was just like a PA right along this big, it's almost like a boulevard on top of a mountain. And there was 300,000 people there. Free festival, but that just felt like amazing. Yeah. There's another band on who were basically Roxy music without Brian Ferry, and they were called the Explorers, or they did a few gigs with Brian Ferry, but it was all Phil Manzanera and all that. It was basically Roxy music without Brian Ferry singing. They had the guy from Cannes singing. Right. The band Cannes, not very familiar with. I think it was called Robin something.
Right.
Anyway, it was all right. It was a wee bit dull, but we loved it. And we by this point we'd become a really good live band because we did loads and loads of gigs. But it's funny that in certain territories, like we'd go to France, you couldn't get arrested. You know what I mean? Really couldn't get arrested. Other bands like the Silences would do great in France.
Yeah.
Went to Germany, fantastic. I think it depends on your record label and the way you're marketed and all that. Well, that's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes the music. Scandinavia was really good for us. Germany was brilliant. Germany's a great place. Spain was brilliant. France, none. Italy, none.
Yeah, but that's the French for you, right?
Yeah. Well, that's why.
I had a friend who was the manager of a band called Whiteout. They were fairly big.
Yes, Whiteout were a brilliant man.
Yeah,
I love Whiteout.
McD, Andrew, and they were
Andrew McDermott.
Yeah. So
yes, I know McD.
Of course you do, right? Good partner. So he was a manager, fairly popular here, but they managed to get to Japan.
Yep.
Short tour, and the same thing. He rocked up there, and they thought they were the Beatles.
That's it.
And it was like chaos everywhere, you know. They couldn't believe it, and then they had to come back here and play in a local pub upstairs and stuff.
Well, that's it. Yeah, and people don't believe it. Oh yeah, just not as if you're going to come back and say, "Hey man, I just paid to 300,000 people." Man. You're not going to do that, but
you did. So.
There's no point. People lie, right? Yeah, Spain was fantastic, and what a great place to be. You know, have a following because it's just where it's like being on a holiday. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about the best music festival you went to as a punter? What would that be?
Oh, as a punter, I thought we were maybe going to go as a okay. I was a punter.
As a performer's fine.
Okay, right. So we went to Glastonbury, 93. The Velvet Underground had just got back together.
Okay, right.
So we were playing it was 1993, the McCluskey Brothers. And we're playing the acoustic stage, but the acoustic stage is big. It's like a big tent, but it's maybe about 2,000 or something like that. So I'd been keeping a wee nosy and seeing what's happening. It was really jumping. The tent was absolutely jumping. It's fantastic. And about 10 minutes or 20 minutes before we went on, you don't get a sound check, you just do a wee line check.
Yeah.
So about 20 minutes before we went on, I said, like, guys, just meet beside the stage. Place was empty, man. Like, it's nobody there, right? Nobody. There was a drunk guy lying, like, you know, like that, conked out. Oh, that's a nightmare because we'd spent ages getting there because there's big queues and traffic. And I was like, this is a nightmare. You know, your Glastonbury debut and there's nobody there. It's pointless. So I found out the Velvet Underground run at the same time as us. So everybody had gone to see the Velvet Underground, like everybody, right? So that's why there was nobody in the tent, right? So I said to the sound man, look, is there anything we could do about this, man? We've come all this way. There's nobody here. He says, look, I want to go and see the Velvet Underground. Do you? I went, aye. He says, I'll just blank it, man. We'll all go to see the Velvet Underground. Then by the time it'll be mobbed again.
Yeah.
So we did. We just went to see the Velvet. And then there were so many people wanting to see the Velvet Underground, you couldn't actually see them. You're miles away.
Yeah.
So we just thought, oh, bugger it. And then loads of other people had the same idea. So all of a sudden you can see this massive people go towards because the tent's on a wee hill. And we were like, yeah. So they delayed it by about 25 minutes, made a full tent.
Oh, very good.
That was a good experience. That was a good experience. But I've festivals. I'll tell you what was really good. That festival last year down the rabbit hole. Now all sorts of things have happened about that. There's been all sorts of different theories and blah blah blah. But last year it was brilliant. I was never at it when it was a wee tiny festival, and I heard it was really cool and family friendly and all that.
Yeah.
Maybe they bit off more than they could chew, but it was beautiful sort of countryside and all that, and it was well organised. And I think we just ran out of money.
Yeah,
probably. And maybe tried too many stages or something. I don't know, but I won't go into that. But that was a good festival.
Okay.
There's also another one we played every year, McCluskey Brothers, the Errigal Festival, and it's Mount Errigal's in the middle of Donegal. You just play all the towns round about that. That was great. So you just go from town to town, and somebody gives you a lift. So you just play box and all that. It's brilliant.
It's becoming a bit of a habit, that touring Ireland thing, isn't it?
Yeah. That was good fun.
Good stuff. Your favourite live music venue?
Favourite live music venue? I've been talking a lot about the Apollo, but my favourite live music venue, and probably everybody says this if they're from Glasgow, the Barrowlands.
Okay.
I just love the atmosphere. I love the way it looks. I like the vibe. I like the sprung floor. I like the sound. I've played it a couple of times, never headlined it, but I've done it as sport band, and I've done it as award ceremonies, like Nordorf Robbins and all that. I've done a few.
Remember that? That's right. I remember that.
I've done that a couple of times. But it's just a great venue. I like the people there. It's magic. It's just got a great feeling of history and social history as well. So although the Apollo was great for a kid, the Barrowlands gets it for me every time. I love it. I just love the vibe, and I love that area as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glasgow.
Yeah, and it's came back again, although it was always quite iconic. It was quite run
down. And then we were down near there playing St Luke's a couple of months ago, and that was great. St Luke's a cracking gig as well. It's just, I think it's 600. St Luke's a great gig. It was. And it's again well run, well organised, good food, all that.
Yeah, I know Michael owns that, Michael Woods. It's a good guy. So cool. And the possible Bluebells headlining at Barrowlands now in your
maybe, you never know. You never need a brave promoter, I think, for that, but we'll see.
Well, we'll see. Okay, a couple of toughies to finish, Ken. So your favourite ever gig?
Wow. Favourite ever gig? Part of me is saying there's a big conflict here, right? So recently, I went to see Leonard Cohen. Not recently, regularly put them on at Edinburgh Castle. It was brilliant. I loved it so much.
Yep.
But probably my favourite gig ever was 1980, and it was the Cramps in the Fall at Glasgow Tech.
Okay.
Glasgow Tech. We seen there. And a great Ents guy called Paddy, who's a bit sort of hippie guy, but he booked loads of cracking bands. So the Fall and the Cramps on the same night. The stage was about a foot high. Yeah. So there's more people on the stage than there was in the audience. You know what I mean? It was if they ended up on the stage and all that. But that was just brilliant. That was like liberating the stage. Yeah. And the bands didn't bother. They were just, everybody should jump about on the stage. It was great. You wouldn't get away with that now. But that was superb. Both the Cramps and the Fall were in very good form, and there was a big change. I think that was the change away from me being I wasn't really a punk rocker as such then, I don't suppose, but I'd kind of grown up, and I kind of my music window of listening to things was opened up quite a bit, but that was quite eye-opening. It was great.
Okay. Perfect. So we'll give you that. That's kind of one big gig and one small gig, really, right?
Yeah. A big gig. Leonard Cohen, I could go on, I could do the Clash at the Apollo, but really, Leonard Cohen was brilliant. And
I think David Ross gave us about 10 when I asked him. So
I know there's loads of cracking gigs. Loads of cracking.
Okay, and to finish, one live album that everyone should own a copy of.
It's Alive by the Ramones.
Okay.
It's good to put on a Sunday morning. Wake up the kids, get it on.
Good head.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's about, I don't know, maybe 50 tracks on it. So it's a double album.
Right.
So, but it only lasts about an hour or something like that. But there's loads of tracks. Each track's like 2 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really good. I love it. So that maybe helps me with not seeing the Ramones thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that one. But there's one that comes up recently. Do you know Nick Peacock, DJ?
No.
No. He's got this thing, like, he collects records, right? He's more into kind of like soul, funk, Latino music and all that. But he's got this thing because he's always searching for records in second-hand shops, and it's the same if anybody's looking through. You always see this live album, Glen Daly live at the Ashfield. Everybody in Scotland must have that, man. Everybody's at one point have had it in their house. I remember everybody's house had Glen Daly live at the Ashfield. So yeah. He always, everywhere he goes, he shows it. So you should just have that. It's a sort of rite of passage, I think.
Yeah, I probably alienated half the audience, Ken. Brilliant. I'll need to search it out then. I do know the album, but I don't think I've ever heard it.
I've heard it. My mum and dad had it.
Yeah, I think the cover's more famous than the
rest. It is.
Brilliant, fantastic. That was great, Ken. Ken McCluskey, thank you very much for your time, mate. Much appreciated.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Thanks very much.
Well done, mate.